Salve omnes, and welcome to Caesar's Gallic Wars, Book 4, Section 32. When last we left Caesar, he was taking steps to deal with the situation with the Britons, but unfortunately, in this next section 32, the Britons are going to attack the legion while it is searching for food. So let us begin. Dum ea geruntur legione ex consuetudine una frumentata missa, quae appellabatur septima, neque ulla et ad id tempus belli suspicione interposita cum pars hominum in agris remaneret, pars etiam in castra ventitaret, equi pro portis castrorum in statione erant, caesare nuntiaverunt, pulverem maiorem quam consuetudino feret in ea parte videri, quam in partem legio iter fecissat. So we're starting off with the dum clause here. While those things are being done, just a regular dum clause, no subjunctives here, dum with an indicative passive present verb. So while these things, remember ea, neuter plural nominative, ends in a, these things are being done, with one legion, una legione, ablative absolute here, having been sent, missa, mitto mitra missi missus, according to custom, ex consuetudine, to find grain, frumentatum, which, by the way, this legion that they're talking about, so we have an ablative absolute here, with one legion having been sent in order to get grain, which was called the seventh legion, with neque ulla suspicione interposita, another ablative absolute, with not any suspicion of war having been introduced ad id tempus at that time. So he doesn't really think that there's going to be any kind of war happening at this time. Now we're going to start with the cum clause. So this cum is starting off our cum clause right there. And here we have our verb and the subjunctive, remaneret is bracketed here, and ventitaret is bracketed here as well, both imperfect subjunctives in our cum clause. Since part of the men remained in the fields, and part even was coming back and forth into the camp. Remember, in plus the accusative, meaning into. And castra is a neuter plural. That's why that's accusative. Here we have, again, the imperfect subjunctive. Since part of the men remained in the fields, and part even went back and forth into the camp, they reported to those who, equi, who were on guard in statione, those who were on guard in front of the camp, pro portis castrorum, announced or reported to Caesar that, remember, when you have any kind of word here that means announced or report or say, you want to look out for an accusative and an infinitive, which could create an indirect statement, and that's what we have here. Reported to Caesar that a larger dust cloud, pulverem, than usual was seen videri in ea parte, in that direction, into which part, in quam partem, the legion, there's our subject, into which part the legion had made their journey or had traveled. So they announced to Caesar that a larger dust cloud than usual, than custom brought, really, than usually happened, was seen in that part, into that direction, into which direction or which part the legion had made a journey. Okay, let's go on to our next passage here. We'll erase some of this. Caesar id quad erat suspicatus, aliquid novia barbaris initum concili cohortes quae in stationibus erant, secum in eam partem proficisci, ex reliquis duas in stationem succedere, reliquas armaria confestum sese, subsequi usit. And that's where we need to go to really start off our sentence. Caesar's our subject here, but we'll just keep on going. We're going to get to usit in a minute. So Caesar, having suspected that which was happening, so he kind of realizes what's going on, basically that something of a new concilium, a new plan, had been undertaken initum by the barbarians. this is what he did. He acted, right? He ordered the cohorts, which were on guard, to set out with him into that direction or into that part. So he ordered them to set out. So here we have our Profakiski. He ordered two to take their place on guard duty. So he ordered two of the legions to take the place on guard duty, and he ordered the others to arm themselves and to follow them or him immediately, confessed him. After he had set out a little further from the camp, remember camp is a neuter plural, so that's why you have castris there, ablative, neuter plural. He perceived that, he noticed that, animad vertit, that his own men, suos, here's your subject of the indirect statement, that his own men were being pressed, another infinitive and indirect statement. Just a reminder, if you have a main brain verb or a head verb like this one, he noticed, you're going to be looking out for infinitives. He noticed that his own men, notice, remember we used to call them nostri when it's our men, but you can also say his own or their own men. He noticed that his own men were being pressed from premo premere by the enemy, and they were withstanding, sustainere, the attack with difficulty, aigre. And with the legione conferta, with the legion closely packed together, he noticed again that spears were being thrown ex omnis partibus, from all directions. All right, continuing. Nam quod omni ex reliquis partibus demesso frumento pars una erat reliqua suspicati hostes huc nostros esse venturos noctu in silvis delituerant tum dispersos depositis armis in mettendo occupatos subito adorti paucis interfectis reliquos incertis ordinibus perturbaverant simul equitatu aquae assedis circum dederant. For, remember, we just can always start out with these words, little words like for, because one part was left, because one part was remaining, with all of the grain having been harvested, demesso, so an ablative absolute, from the other parts or the remaining parts, one part was left. The enemy, subject here, having suspected that our men, subject of the indirect statement in the accusative case, right? You suspect that something is happening. The enemy having suspected that our men would come when turos esse, here, so we have future infinitive in the indirect statement. The enemy having suspected that our men would come here, they had hidden at night in the woods. Okay, so because one part was remaining, after all of the grain had been harvested from all other parts, the enemy, having suspected that our men would come from Venia Venire, would come here, had hidden themselves at night in the woods. Then, having attacked our men who were dispersed, with their weapons having been put down, when with a few having been killed, they threw into confusion the rest, there's your direct object, with their ranks having been disorganized, and at the same time, had surrounded them, circumdederant, with cavalry and chariots. So let's go back to that for a minute. Then, having suddenly attacked Adorti, subito, our men who were split up, dispersos, with their weapons having been put down, our men who were dispersed and who were also occupied in the reaping. I think I forgot to put that in there. We're busy reaping. We're occupied in reaping. They suddenly, having attacked them, with few having been killed, they disturbed or put into disturbance the rest, with their ranks uncertain, literally, with their ranks disorganized. And at the same time, they had surrounded them, circumdederat, pluperfect tense, with cavalry and with chariots. Okay, so that is a review of 4.32. Just so we know that we have some of the Britons decide to attack a legion while it is searching for food. Caesar suspects that this is going to happen, and he tries to put some things in place to stop this attack. And we see that the enemy kind of makes an attack on them secretly, throws them into confusion, disturbs their ranks, and then surrounds them with cavalry and a chariot. All right, so thanks for listening. See you next time with 4.33. Walete.